How do you forgive yourself? How do you forgive yourself for the really bad things in your life that you've done? And how do you forgive yourself for even the small things that you've forgotten? And a lot of times those things accumulate and pile up, and it's no way to live a life. And in the end, you realize that you truly need to go back to self-forgiveness. It's probably one of the most important things that you can do for yourself in your life, especially to help you to move forward. And I'm sure you've probably experienced it or you're experiencing it right now. So I have two techniques, two methods that you can use here. They're pretty easy, pretty straightforward. Now, I would suggest doing them for either 2 weeks or 1 month if you can do it. And at the end of that, you're going to have a sense of peace about a lot of things. So stick around. I'm Michael Kowal, and welcome to my world. Self-forgiveness, huh? Okay, we're gonna get down into the deep stuff today. Mostly because self-forgiveness has to do with forgiving ourselves for the really bad, stupid things we've done in our lives, the hurtful things we've done to other people, and I think even more importantly is the hurtful things we've done to ourselves. Because when those start piling up, they really prevent you from being able to move forward, to creating the life that you want, to being able to enjoy your life, to really get to love. That's the whole point of this whole life, is getting to love, right? And self-forgiveness is actually the first step I have found towards getting there. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about two different concepts, not concepts, but techniques of how I've actually approached this. And I did this starting a year ago, and I realized that there were things in my life that were holding me back. And mostly it was me focusing on all the, stupid things I've done, right? And the hurt that I've caused, and feeling the guilt involved in there. And to be honest with you, that's actually what we really don't want to get into when we talk about this whole subject. It's the guilt and the shame. And those are the things that really, truly hurt us on an ongoing basis. You probably felt it before, right? You feel just so stupid that you did something, whether was unintended or it was intended, and you realized how hurtful that it was. I know I've done things where I just have felt incredibly just guilty. I can't believe I did it. The shame I feel, I don't even want to begin to think about those things that I've done, let alone forgive myself for them. Because in a way, I feel I'm still guilty and I don't deserve forgiveness. But everyone deserves forgiveness. And it's the key to unlocking the peace inside you. So let's start with the two techniques. So first, I want to start you with kind of like an overall picture of what the techniques are. So you kind of have it in your mind. Then we can get into the details of each one of them. So the two techniques, basically at their core, are about kind of like refocusing is basically what it is. So in the end, we're going to be forgiving ourselves for all of these particular things, even the worst things that you've ever done, down to the small, everyday things. And I find that really in the end, you need to forgive yourself for all of them. You may have come here to this video, you may have found this to try to forgive yourself for a particularly bad thing that you've done, or a particularly harsh and strong hurt that you've caused someone. But you're going to find out that the peace that you really want, this is just your entry point into it, and it involves forgiving yourself for everything in your life. The small little day-to-day things that you've done, the really incredibly big things, the things you've done to people outside of yourself, and also, and I think incredibly more important, is all of the hurts that you've caused yourself. You need to forgive yourself for those also. So everything, it's a whole package. And once you do that, you're going to find yourself in a lot better place in your life. So it's all about refocusing. And when I talk about refocusing, what it is, it's refocusing from focusing on that shame and the guilt for each one of those things over into the forgiveness. and to remind yourself that you deserve the forgiveness. You're going to feel that forgiveness. You're going to feel that release inside of you when we do these exercises. Now, the first exercise, the first technique is really what we do is we just kind of like write out on like a half sheet of paper, and you're just going to write down like different categories of your life that you want to forgive yourself within. Kind of like some examples of that are money or anger or love. You know, we've got all sorts of things we can forgive ourselves there. And then the other things that you're going to be listing out on there are going to be like the specific incidences, right? Where you really hurt someone in particular. You said something incredibly bad, or you betrayed someone or someone's trust. So you're going to be working on, or we're going to be working on a combination of those, right? Okay. Now, then the second technique is going to be a little bit different. What we're going to do is we're actually going to kind of like, we're going to get calm and centered, and we're going to then kind of like ask our own selves, okay, what do you want to forgive next? What's the next one? What's the next? What's the next? And you're going to find that by doing that process, your own self, right? Your higher self, your smarter part of yourself, your heart is going to lead you to those places where you in particular need to forgive yourself. So those are the two different techniques that we're going to do, and let's get into the specifics now. Now, this first technique is actually, it was kind of semi-based on another technique that I use, actually how I did a video. Okay, I'm getting tongue-tied here, but I'll link to a video up there and I'll put it in probably at the end also. It's a technique I came up with where I focus on gratitude in order to create abundance in my life. And it's actually been very powerful and worked really well for me. But so I use the same kind of like technique, and basically what it is, as I said just a second ago, is we kind of break things down into both categories in your life, right? Or kind of like general areas, and also into specifics, okay? And what I want you to do is I want you to take in like a half a sheet of paper, and on that half a sheet of paper, just, write out 10, 15 things, maybe 20 things, as much as that, and just kind of like bullet point them. And it's okay, actually, here, like this. So this is kind of like a rough example, right? Remember I had mentioned about, money and love and anger and all of this. So these are the type things that you're going to list down. And what we're going to do for the technique is we're going to focus on each one of these things that are written down here, and we're going to go into them and forgive ourselves in those particular areas. Now, in some cases, like I say, it's the large categories, and in some, it's for these specific things that we really all relate to, that where we've done something really bad, and we need to forgive ourselves for those specific things. But let me kind of walk you through each one here a little bit, and it'll kind of help give you an idea of how the things you can list down and what you kind of end up thinking of as you're running through this forgiveness. Because what you really want to focus on is feeling yourself, forgive yourself for each one of these things. So let's take money as the first example, okay? So in money, now let's say for me, I sit there and a lot of times I spend too much money and I really don't looking at saving it. And over the course of my life, I really haven't made as much money as I wanted to. I don't have it sitting around. We're not a rich family or anything like that. Far from it. But, and for those things, it's like I can feel a lot of shame around that. I can feel a lot of guilt that I haven't done these particular things, right? So what I do in this particular case is, let's say in the case of money, I would sit there, and how I begin the whole process is I'll usually kind of give myself a couple of, nice easy breaths to kind of get myself centered, right? And I will sit there and then just focus on the first one, in this case, money. And I'll go and I'll remember all of those things that I just mentioned to you. And I will then you can do a couple different ways. You can sit there and say, I forgive you for this. That's, very formal. But the main thing that you want to do is get into that feeling. And you can say, okay, you know what? So you didn't save a lot of money, okay? Or you didn't do a budget, or you did all these things. You know what? It's okay. And you feel that forgiveness. You forgive yourself for that. And you feel all the little different separate aspects within the category, if you're looking at a category. And you sit there and sometimes you close your eyes and you just feel it. And you know what? They start melting away. You start giving yourself that self-forgiveness. You're forgiving yourself for all the stupid things you've done, all the idiotic, crazy things, and all the really bad things that I've done. Let's say with money in this case. Or if I want to look at anger, let me look at all the instances that I've been angry with people, or that I've shouted or just caused somebody pain in their life because of my anger, directed it inside. Or all those instances where I have gotten angry with someone and yelled at them or whatever. And I've got to forgive myself for all of those. Because what you're doing here is you're forgiving yourself for all of it, for the things that you've done to someone else, as well as the things that you've done to yourself. And you can think of the specific incidences within the category, since we're looking at a category right now of anger, and they're going to pop up for you. You're going to feel some, right? You're going to feel all the normal ones. You're going to feel some new ones. But in each one of those, forgiveness. You forgive yourself for those. And you begin to feel the peace that comes from that. Now, in the beginning, when you first start this, I'll admit it, it's going to be awkward. It's like, as a child learning to walk for the first time. You're going to try to forgive yourself, and it's going to be all formal at first, and it's going to feel really kind of like, oh, this just is stupid, or else you're going to feel bad because maybe you feel like you don't deserve to have forgiveness for this particular thing. But keep going. Feel it as best you can. And close your eyes if you have to. Think of the different incidences that you've done within these categories and feel that forgiveness. And finally, when you're done with that, or you've reached a point where you can't do anything more, go on to the next one. Let's say we look down at the one that says love, right? So, okay, all the instances there where, okay, I could not give my love to this person. I couldn't say I love you to this person, right? Or I sat there, or I've withheld my love. I stopped it. I haven't allowed it out. Forgive yourself. All those times where you didn't love yourself, forgive yourself. All those times where you've gone the opposite of not loving yourself, you've hated yourself, forgive yourself. Feel those, each and every one of those, as they come up. Feel them melt away. Each one of those little items that comes up within that category comes up, and you feel the forgiveness around that. And once you start that, it becomes a lot easier to continue it. And you feel each and every one of these bubbling up, sometimes many at a time, and you just feel forgiveness, forgiveness. And you forgive yourself for all of those things within that category, everything that you've ever done in your life. Then you move on to the next one. And in this case, maybe it's mom, right? Mom, right there in the middle. And maybe you write that down because you have one particular thing where you know that you hurt your mom. Something you said, or maybe something that you did. And you've carried it around for a long time. And you forgive yourself for that. You forgive yourself, and you forgive yourself, and you forgive yourself. To the right and to the left, to up and down, underneath, you forgive yourself all aspects of that time when you did that. When you weren't thinking, you weren't feeling, you maybe said something very quickly, you forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. You let it go and you release it. You let it go and you forgive. Then you move on to the next one. Now in this case, I've got the restaurant. So I just listed that down. Maybe there was a time when you were out at a restaurant and you behaved really badly. And you forgive yourself for that. every aspect of it. And you continue down through the list. And you do this every day. You do this every single day. There's no choice about it. You do it every day for 2 weeks. And if you need to, and if it's a little bit weird and kind of like, hey, I don't like doing this, start for 5 minutes a day if that's what you need to do to get yourself started and to get yourself to continue doing it. But work yourself up to 10 minutes at least, or 15, and kind of get in there and feel each one of these as you forgive yourself for each aspect of it. For each category, everything that you can think of and feel, everything that bubbles up, you forgive yourself. Each of the specific things that you list on there, you forgive yourself for. And in the end, the last and final thing that you do is always at the end, you forgive yourself for everything. Everything that you can't think of, everything that you've forgotten, everything that you've blocked out, you forgive yourself. You forgive yourself for everything, and you feel that. You feel the peace of that. You feel the release, finally. It's almost like a big exhale, and you feel that. You forgive yourself. Now, you do this every day, and the thing about this is when you do it every day, what you're doing is you're not giving yourself, you're not making yourself have to make the choice to forgive yourself each day, because you're not going to do it, right? I mean, I wouldn't do it. If it was between that or going for a walk or, having some ice cream or some cookies or something like that, I would probably do those. I'm not going to sit there and forgive myself for anything. But you have to realize and you have to know how important this is. How important it is to your development as a person and how important it is for your health. And every aspect of you, you've got to forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for all of it. Now, I don't know if you'd noticed with the list, right? Now, I could have sat there and I could have also, there's kind of a little bit of an art in how you list each one of these things also. Because I could list for money, I could list down, I'm stupid with money. I'm bad with money. Or I could sit there for mom, I could sit there and go, the time I was so mad with mom, or the time that I betrayed my best friend, right? Clarissa may be on the list, right? The time I betrayed Clarissa. But in listing each one of those that way, what are you doing? You're focusing on the negative aspect of that particular thing. You're reminding yourself of the hurt that you caused. And yeah, you've got to deal with the hurt that you caused. And you have to understand everything that your actions resulted in with other people or within yourself. And you have to come to terms with that. But that's something a little bit separate, and you've got to deal with that. But this is all about just the self-forgiveness. So use that as you're listing each one of these out. Make it a neutral thing, a neutral word or phrase that's going to remind you, because believe me, you'll know what you need to do within that particular one. It's like the call that I have listed down there, right? It's for that particular thing. Whatever happened during the phone call that you made, you can write that down instead of the true bad things that happened or how much you hurt someone. So keep them neutral. Allow them to just jog your memory, because your memories will be there of each one of these things. Like I say, do this for 10 minutes a day if you can, 15 minutes more if you're able to, whatever feels more comfortable. And in particular, whatever feels like it will allow you to do it again the next day. Do that for 2 weeks and then continue on to a full month. And that's where I found where I really got the most benefit, was going that long. Because in the end, remember what I said in the beginning? What you're doing is you're teaching yourself a different focus. So for each of these particular things, you're no longer going to focus on the guilt and the shame and the hurt that you've caused. You're focusing on the forgiveness. You're focusing on that self-forgiveness, forgiving yourself. And again, you're focusing on forgiving yourself, both for the things that you've done to other people, but one of the main ones is all the stuff that you've done to yourself. When you have treated yourself poorly, when you constantly harangue yourself, when you're constantly blaming yourself or angry at yourself or talking yourself down. Those are going to be the magic ones when you get into those, and forgive yourself for those. And like I say, always remember at the end to remember to do your whole self, forgiving your whole self, feeling that with each one of these inside, and I guarantee you'll feel the peace come. You'll feel the peace of finally getting forgiveness for each one of these things. Now, on to the second one. Okay, so the second technique, right, I don't want to say a little more fun, but it can be frightening and scary at the same time. It can be scary, but it's a little more interesting and fun. Now, the first technique I like to use because I can focus on those particular areas of my life or those specific incidences where I know I need to forgive myself a lot. And I know that I can come back day after day after day after day and slowly keep shaving each one of those down. I can focus on it until I finally release all of them. Now, so that's great there. But now, the second one is fun because here what you do is you allow your insides, right? You allow your mind, your heart, your angels, your guides, whatever it is, to lead you in the best direction of those things that you want to forgive yourself for. The things that it knows, right, are better for you, and they go, okay, no, we're going to start doing this. And what you'll find too is they start chaining them together. So you'll first of all, the technique. Okay, so first of all, again, like the previous one, just start with a couple of nice easy breaths to get yourself centered. Okay. And then from there, you can do this with your eyes open or closed. Probably closed is a little bit easier, but whatever works for you. And you just sit there and you can either start by asking, what should I forgive myself for? Or if you're finding a particular, it's kind of blocked and it's not coming easily to begin with, start with a couple that you know of, things, like we talked about mom in the last example. One of the really big incidences, the particular things that you did that were pretty bad. And you can start with a couple of those or, a couple of categories, like I mentioned, and just to get yourself kind of started and warmed up, right? And with each one of those, you do what? You feel the forgiveness inside. You feel that release finally. And then you get to the point where you kind of then begin and you ask, okay, now what? Now what? What next? What can I forgive next? And you'll begin to have things come up. Some of them you probably know about. You'll find some that you've forgotten, that maybe are buried way deep down. You'll find maybe small things that you've done, but follow it. It's almost like a little trail that you'll follow along the way. And just do each one. Remember, but do each one at a time. As soon as it comes up, whatever that particular thing is, you understand, you remember that incident, and you forgive yourself for it. You feel that almost like a warmth in a way, that you forgive yourself truly to your core. You feel that and you feel the release of that. And then when it comes time for the next, you bring on the next one. What next? What can I forgive next? Who's next? Who wants it next, right? But it's not who, again, it's for you. You're forgiving yourself. And again, a reminder, that's for things outside, against people that you've done things, and mainly and a lot of the things you've done against yourself. Keep asking, what next? What next? What can I forgive? What should I forgive? What next? And you forgive every single one of those. And at the end of this, when you feel it's about time, you've had enough or nothing else is coming, again, you go back to the final thing, which is forgiving yourself for everything. Granting yourself forgiveness for every single thing, everything you can't remember, everything you don't even know that you did, all the major things that you have done, and all the different categories of your life. Total and absolute forgiveness. Self-forgiveness. And feel that peace that comes from that. Now, you can do both of these techniques separately. You can do them together. You can kind of mix them together. You can mix and match. But the end result in the end of all of this is, for 1 month, if you can make it, and I highly recommend that you do it every day. Whether it's the categories and specific incidences, the specific times that you did something, or the kind of open-ended, what next? What next? Mix them together, do one or the other, interchange them every other day, whatever you want to do. But the main thing is to get the self-forgiveness every single day. And in the end, what you're doing is, again, you're refocusing yourself. So that any time in the future that you think of one of these things that you've done, the first thing that your mind goes to and that your body goes to and your heart goes to is self-forgiveness, and not the guilt and the shame. We're getting rid of those. They serve no purpose for you at all, except to keep you stuck and here where you're at. But you want to fly. You want to live. You want to know and understand your own power, all of it. And all of that stuff begins with self-forgiveness. I guarantee you. Now, do it. I guess that's all I got to say to you, is just do it. You're going to get to a place that you've been wanting to be at. And maybe it'll take you longer than a month. Maybe it'll take you less. And like I think I mentioned before, maybe there are going to be times where you thought you got yourself completely forgiven for everything, but it tends to come back, because it kind of does. These are old habits, these habits of grabbing for and looking at the shame and the guilt around each of these things. And you're breaking that habit, going for the self-forgiveness. But you will get there. Keep going as many times as you need to do it, because you know that you're going to get there. I promise you that you are going to get there. You just got to do it every day. Keep going at it. You're going to feel great as a result. I promise. If you like this, share it with somebody who you think could benefit. Like the episode if you like it. Certainly subscribe. I'd love to have you come along for the journey. But if nothing else, forgive yourself this week. Forgive yourself now. Even one small thing, and your life will become a lot better. Love ya.